The marble floors of the Grandmont Hotel gleamed like mirrors under the crystal chandeliers. Elena Vasquez moved quietly through the grand lobby, her cleaning cart tucked discreetly behind a potted palm. At 26, she'd learned to be invisible in places like this, where a night's stay cost more than she made in a month. She wasn't supposed to be here. This was her Aunt Rosa's shift. But Rosa had called that morning with the flu, her voice rough with worry. "Elena, mija, I can't lose this job, please, just this once." Elena had said yes without hesitation. She'd taken the day off from her job at the university library, borrowed Rosa's uniform, and here she was, cleaning rooms in one of Boston's most exclusive hotels. The uniform was a simple powder blue dress with a white apron. Modest and professional, Elena had pulled her dark brown hair into a ponytail, though loose curls escaped around her face. At 5'4", with her aunt's uniform a bit loose on her slender frame, she hoped she looked the part. "Suite 412 needs attention," the supervisor had said. "The guest is out for the afternoon. Be thorough but quick." Elena took the service elevator up, pushing her cart down the hushed hallway. The carpet was so thick her footsteps made no sound. She'd never been in a place like this, not really. Her family's apartment in Dorchester had 3 bedrooms shared by 7 people. This was a different world entirely. She unlocked Suite 412 and stepped inside. Her breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the harbor. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. The bathroom had marble everything and towels so soft they felt like clouds. Elena set to work. She'd cleaned houses before, helping her mother on weekends when she was younger. She knew how to be efficient, thorough. She was replacing the towels in the bathroom when she heard the door open. Her heart stopped. The guest wasn't supposed to be back yet. "Hello?" A man's voice, cultured and curious. "Housekeeping?" Elena emerged from the bathroom, wiping her hands on her apron. "I'm so sorry. I was told you'd be out until—" She stopped. The man standing in the doorway was younger than she'd expected, maybe in his mid-30s. He wore a charcoal gray suit that fit him perfectly, emphasizing broad shoulders and a lean build. Dark hair neatly styled, a strong jaw with a hint of stubble. He had the kind of face you saw in business magazines. Handsome in a serious, intelligent way. He was staring at her with an odd expression. "Confusion, maybe? Or recognition?" "I apologize," he said slowly. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "This is my suite." Elena felt her face flush. "Yes, sir, I know. I'm just finishing the cleaning. I'll be out of your way in just a moment." But he was shaking his head, a small smile playing at his lips. "No, I mean, you're not who I expected." He glanced at the cart, then back at her. "The hotel told me they'd arranged for a— I'm sorry, this is going to sound strange. Are you Elena Mendoza?" Elena's mind went blank. "Elena Vasquez," she corrected automatically. "Then, wait, how do you know my name?" "Because I'm supposed to meet you." He extended his hand. "I'm Michael Preston. We have a meeting scheduled for 3 o'clock. Elena stared at his outstretched hand, completely lost. "I think there's been a mistake. I don't have a meeting with anyone. I'm here to clean your room." Michael's expression shifted from confusion to understanding to something. That might have been embarrassment. Oh, I see." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm sorry. The hotel concierge mentioned they'd sent someone named Elena to help with some arrangements. And when I saw you—" He gestured vaguely. "I just assumed." "That I was a guest?" Elena couldn't help the slight edge in her voice. "Yes, I apologize." But he was looking at her differently now. Really looking at her, and Elena felt suddenly self-conscious. "Though I have to say that uniform is misleading. You don't look like any hotel cleaner I've ever seen." It should have sounded like a line, but his tone was genuine, almost wondering. Elena didn't know what to say. She defaulted to the practical. "I should finish up and let you get ready for your meeting." "Right, yes." But Michael didn't move. He was still standing in the doorway, watching her. "Can I ask you something? And please tell me if this is completely inappropriate, but have we met before?" "You look familiar." Elena shook her head, bending to gather her cleaning supplies. "I don't think so. I'd remember." "The library," Michael said suddenly. "Boston University Library. I was there last week for a research meeting. You work at the reference desk, don't you?" Elena straightened so fast she nearly dropped the spray bottle. "How did you—" "I asked about historical property records and you helped me. You found 3 sources I didn't even know existed. All in about 10 minutes. His smile widened. You made a comment about how land ownership patterns revealed migration stories. It was brilliant. Elena remembered now. A well-dressed man asking about 19th century Boston. She'd gotten caught up in the research, excited to help. She'd forgotten he'd been handsome. That's my job, she said softly. Is this your job too? The cleaning? Elena felt defensive pride surge up. I'm helping my aunt. She's sick, and she couldn't afford to miss work. So yes, for today, this is my job. Michael's expression shifted to something Elena couldn't quite read. Respect, maybe, or admiration. That's really kind of you. It's family. Elena moved toward the door, pushing her cart. I should go. Your meeting is with someone who wants me to invest in their real estate project. Michael interrupted. Elena Mendoza? Not you. He paused. Though honestly, I'd rather talk to you. Elena's heart did a strange flip. Mr. Preston. Michael, please. Michael, I need to finish my rounds. And you need to get to your meeting. You're right. But he pulled out his wallet, reaching for what looked like several bills. No, Elena said firmly. I don't want a tip. I'm just helping my aunt. Michael paused, then put the money away. Okay, but can I ask you something else? That thing you said about migration patterns and property records. I'm working on a project, restoring a historic neighborhood in the north. And I could really use someone with your research skills. Would you be interested in consulting? Paid, of course. Well paid. Elena stared at him. Are you serious? Completely. I've been looking for someone who understands Boston's history, who can help tell the story of these buildings and the people who lived in them. The library work you showed me last week was exactly what I need. He pulled out a business card. Think about it. Call me if you're interested. Elena took the card with shaking fingers. Preston Development Corporation, CEO, a phone number in raised lettering. I should go, she managed. Of course. Michael stepped aside to let her pass. Then, Elena? I'm glad I met you. Both times. Elena pushed her cart into the hallway, her mind reeling. She finished her rounds in a daze, barely aware of what she was doing. When her shift ended and she returned Rosa's uniform, her aunt took one look at her face and asked what happened. Elena told her everything. Rosa listened, then smiled knowingly. Mija, sometimes God puts us in strange places for reasons we don't understand yet. Maybe you were supposed to be in that room today. Elena wanted to dismiss it, but she couldn't stop thinking about Michael Preston, about the way he'd looked at her when he realized who she was. Not with judgment or pity, but with genuine interest. Respect. 3 days later, she called the number on the card. Michael answered on the second ring. Elena, I was hoping you'd call. They met at a coffee shop in the North End. Michael brought architectural plans, property surveys, historical maps. Elena brought her research skills and her love of history. They talked for 3 hours, and by the end, Elena had agreed to work on the project. Over the next few months, Elena spent her evenings and weekends helping Michael understand the stories behind the buildings he was restoring. She dug through archives, interviewed longtime residents, pieced together narratives of immigrant families who'd built lives in those cramped apartments. Michael listened to every word, incorporated every suggestion. He wasn't just restoring buildings, Elena realized. He was honoring the people who'd lived in them. They worked late one evening in his office, surrounded by papers and half-empty coffee cups. Elena was explaining the significance of a particular architectural detail when she looked up and found Michael watching her with an expression that made her breath catch. What? She asked. I was just thinking, he said quietly, about that day in the hotel. How I assumed you were someone else. How wrong I was. He paused. And how that was the best wrong assumption I've ever made. Elena felt her pulse quicken. Michael, I know this is complicated. We're working together, and you might not feel the same way. But Elena, I have to tell you, that day, standing in my hotel room, I thought you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. Then I found out you were also brilliant and kind and dedicated to your family, and He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Elena had come to recognize as nervous. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. Elena's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. I thought you were way out of my league, she admitted. A millionaire CEO who stays in fancy hotels. And I'm just Just? Michael stood and moved around the desk, kneeling beside her chair the way he had that day in his suite. Elena, you're not just anything. You're extraordinary. Your Aunt Rosa called you the day she was sick because she knew you'd help without question. You work 2 jobs to support your family. You light up when you talk about history, about stories, about people. You see things I miss. You make me better. You make me believe I can be more than I thought possible, Elena whispered. Michael reached up and gently tucked a loose curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. You already are. I just get to see it. He kissed her then, soft and sure, and Elena felt something shift in her chest, like pieces falling into place. Like coming home. 6 months later, Michael took Elena to the hotel where they'd first met. The Grand Mont's restaurant, all elegant lighting and harbor views. Elena wore a blue dress that reminded her of the uniform she'd worn that day, but this one was silk and fit her perfectly. I have something to tell you, Michael said over dessert. That project in the North End? The Historical Society wants to feature it in their annual publication. They specifically mentioned your research. They want to interview you. Elena's eyes widened. Really? Really? But there's more. Michael reached across the table and took her hand. I want to start a foundation, Preston Heritage Foundation, dedicated to preserving historic neighborhoods and telling the stories of the people who built this city, and I want you to run it. Michael, I can't. That's too much. It's not. It's exactly right. Elena, you taught me that buildings aren't just brick and mortar. They're memories. They're dreams. They're the evidence that people were here, that they mattered. I want to honor that. I want you to help me honor that. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. When I put on my aunt's uniform that day, I was just trying to help her keep her job. I never imagined that you'd end up here? With me? Michael smiled. I never imagined it either. But I'm grateful for every moment that led to us. He paused, including the part where I made a complete fool of myself, mistaking you for someone else. You weren't a fool. You were kind. Even when you realized I was just the cleaning lady. You were never just anything, Michael interrupted gently. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You were always extraordinary. I just had the good fortune to be standing in the right place when you walked through my door. Elena laughed through her tears. That's a pretty metaphor coming from a developer. I learned from the best. They left the restaurant hand in hand, walking along the harbor as lights reflected on the dark water. Michael pulled Elena close and she leaned into him, thinking about how strange life could be, how one decision, one moment of helping family could change everything. Aunt Rosa still worked at the Grand Mont, but now she was a supervisor with better pay and benefits. Michael had made sure of that quietly, without fanfare. Elena had gone back to graduate school, studying public history, funded by a scholarship from the Preston Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Elena said suddenly. For what? For seeing me that day. For looking past the uniform and the assumptions and just seeing me. Michael stopped walking and turned to face her, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Elena, how could I not? You're the brightest thing in any room you walk into. You always have been. He kissed her again as snow began to fall, soft flakes catching in her hair like stars. And Elena thought about that day in Suite 412, how nervous she'd been, how out of place she'd felt. She'd been wrong. She'd been exactly where she was supposed to be. Sometimes the best things in life start with a misunderstanding, a case of mistaken identity, a moment when 2 worlds collide and create something neither person expected. And sometimes when you're brave enough to take the opportunity, when you're kind enough to help family, when you're open enough to see where life leads, you find something more valuable than all the marble floors and crystal chandeliers in the world. You find someone who sees you, really sees you, and loves what they find.